on high building, 75 meters above the ground. And I'm working with my Romeo mic amplifier, 100 Whiskey Quetzal, Radio Fox, 1514. This is 328 Hotel Romeo 010.
Hello, welcome back to Fred in the Shed. I'm up in the Radio Shack, and on this video we're going to bring you a review on a very affordable SDR, software defined portable radio. I got this radio into the shack. This is a Malahai DSP-1 clone, a clone of the original Russian radio. These are all over eBay, all over China now. The only problem I found with this DSP-1 clone was the price. Originally about £160 when I reviewed it, but it's crept up, and these are just below the £200 mark, which in the UK, and I kind of feel that's a bit expensive. I think if you're in the market for one of these little pocket SDRs, I think the least that you spend is the best. In a second, I'll show you what comes in the box, and we'll have a closer look at the radio. I'm going to say right from the onset that I've had one or two issues with this radio, with the interface. I'll get to that in a moment, but it's certainly not perfect. But fair's fair for £90 straight out of the box. The radio does feel quite substantial, quite nice. A full aluminium or aluminum for our USA viewers case, and that's quite nice because a little while ago when you went right to the bottom of the market here, sometimes you just got two sandwiched circuit boards and you didn't get a complete case. But no, this actually does feel quite nice. They've obviously spent quite a bit of money getting this case to feel quite nice. So on the front, obviously that large, very, very clear 4.3 inch screen. It is a touch screen, but I think they could have done a lot better with the interface, and I'll get to that in a moment. But it is a touch screen for things like the frequencies. You can use it. Looking around the radio, on the top here we have the antenna connection. Now this uses a SMA. I don't know, I might have preferred a BNC. Sometimes the SMAs can be a little bit fragile, but in fairness this has a supporting bracket there with two Phillips screws, so it's probably better than a locking ring. You can get adapters to put this to 259s, things like that. On this side, nothing really. We've just got a 3.5 millimeter audio jack there for headphones or external speakers. And then this side on the radio we have a encoder. Now this does pretty much everything on the operation of the radio, so it does feel quite nice, to be fair. It does feel quite precise, but it really does need to be, because you're going to rely on that a lot. Below that you've got an LED with a little symbol that tells you it's an LED. Okay. Then you have a standard USB socket. Now I thought this was for programming for a computer, because you can program the 100 presets via a computer, but I did connect this to a computer and it didn't read anything. It appears just to be a 5-volt out socket. So with that large 10-hour battery, possible you might just get a couple of charges on your mobile phone. That might be important to you if you're out and about. This is a portable device. On-off switch, and then we've got the Type-C USB charging, and I'll assume that's also for the PC interface. And on the back of the radio, well, they've screen printed quite a nice block schematic. It doesn't mean anything, but it just sort of like looks quite nice, really. So yeah, overall, the case of the radio, it does feel very, very sturdy. It is a very, very nice case, and I've got to say, it is a very nice, sharp screen. So have a quick look what you get in a box, because you don't get a lot. Some of these radios come in a very, very nice protective case, which is nice to have, but you will pay for that. I just think keep the price down to the dead minimum. So this one comes in a cardboard box. I've got no problem with that, to be perfectly honest. Inside the box we've just got a standard USB-C charging lead, and I assume that is also for the PC interface. Telescopic whip antenna, not too long, 70-80 centimetres. Does seem quite nice and tight though. Some of these can be sometimes really, really floppy, almost useless. This one will stand up, it will hold. SMA connector, of course. Now with this radio you're not going to get very much on the standard whip. You'll get all of the FM broadcast band, and you will probably get all of the AM band, and you might get some of the stronger shortwave radio signals, but you're certainly not going to get the best out of the radio using it. It's just there for testing purposes. And that's really about it. We have got a attempt at a user's guide, which is a single sheet and kind of explains some of the controls. Look at the specs of the radio. Worth noting that it's a bit reduced compared to the Malahai. Tuning 100k right down below the medium wave there, all the way up to 149 megahertz. So it does incorporate the air band around 120 megahertz AM. Also the 2 meter band, which is on FM. We'll have a look at that in a moment. Adjustable AGC control, slow, medium and fast. What I found with these radios myself is, to be honest with you, in a way you're better to leave the automatic gain off. I find these overload really easily, so personally I tend to leave the AGC off and just use the RF control, which in this radio says IF gain, but basically just use the manual gain. Battery life, they say up to 10 hours, 5,000 mAh, so yeah, that might be possible. I've been using this for a couple of hours and that doesn't seem to have dropped hardly anything on the battery at all. Has got 99 presets. Downside of that is you can sort of tune into them and click the encoder to save them, but I can't seem to find a way of arranging them in the order that I want. I think you have to connect to a PC and open a config file, which that's a bit of a pain in the arse, to be honest with you. A bit clunky on the presets. Weighs 300 grams. It is a bit chunky in your pocket. Oh, I forgot to mention as well, it does come with a little pointy pen to use the touch screen. I always find that a little bit more accurate. Firstly, as I mentioned, the screen is lovely and clear, and there's quite a lot of information given to you, and there's some things that I haven't really seen before. There's a FPS display there showing the frames per second, which gives you an idea of what's happening with the processor. I've not seen that on a radio before. Obviously battery display there, time and date, that's also a nice feature. Your channel select preset, again it's a shame that I can't swap them around. Then you've got the frequency display, and then it tells you where you are or what band you're on, which is quite nice. Speaker and earphone volume, again this is quite useful. You can adjust them independently, have one or either on or both at the same time. Quite useful if you're going to run this maybe into a PC and use a sound card, or possibly an extension speaker. Then we have the bandwidth there. At the moment we're on wide FM. I can't see a way that you can adjust that, unfortunately. And with the Malahai there, that was fully adjustable, the bandwidth. This one it seems to be preset, which is a little bit of a shame. Then we've got the AGC control there, which I'm leaving off. And then we've got the settings for the LCD and IF gain, which is the RF gain. And then we haven't got a signal meter, but we've got a display that tells you the signal strength. Again, pretty irrelevant, to be honest. So that's all very, very good, isn't it? And then we've got the spectrum display itself. Now, this is where it starts to fall down a little bit, and this is with an SDR radio, generally to tune on the band, because you've got the waterfall and you've got the spectrum display, you would see a peak perhaps over here, and you simply click on it. It's a touch screen, and the radio would automatically tune. That's how the interface works. This one is different. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that feature, which I was a little bit shocked actually. I just imagined it would have. Touch anywhere on the screen on the display, and as you can see, nothing happens. All that happens is that the display freezes, and that is a real shame that it hasn't got that. To tune the radio, let me just come out a little bit, you have to use the encoder, but to go through all of the menu options there, you have to push on the encoder and hold it in, and from there you can then choose which function you want. Problem with that is you have to put quite a bit of pressure on this encoder, and you have to hold it in whilst you go through the options, and I find that quite a bit uncomfortable, to be honest. And having used this for a while yesterday, I actually found that my finger, can you see that? started to go a little bit numb because of the amount of pressure you've got to push on that. Basically, not the best way at all. I don't know quite why they've done that. It's a shame, really, because the radio seems to work quite well. Another feature that I find a little bit hard to live with is the automatic gain control. Now, at the moment, we've got the gain control off there, and you can see the waterfall is nice and clear. If you turn this on, even if you have it on slow or medium, straight away it completely blows out the waterfall display. Now, you can correct that a little bit by, again, going through this and going to the RF gain there, and we can turn that down. But even so, with the automatic gain control on it, you can see it's compensating for that. It's improving it. And I did find that playing with this radio just on the FM band, if you're willing to play with this menu system, and as I say, it does become a little bit frustrating, but it can produce fairly decent results. You've got direct frequency input, and that works absolutely fine. Just click on the frequency there, type in what you want. We'll go to 27,555. You won't get anything because we're using a telescopic whip. Then you've got your options here: gigahertz, don't know about that, but megahertz, kilohertz. So we go to 27,555 megs and tunes in straight away. Now, obviously, we're in wide FM mode. Now, normally with a touchscreen, you would click on that and you'll be able to change this into upper sideband. Again, we have to use this encoder. There we go, upper sideband. Now, straight away, the bandwidth 2.6K. I'll be honest with you, that's probably what I would use anyway. But it would be nice, again, if we could click on that and then that was adjustable. Sometimes if you're trying to get in a weaker station, you've got a lot of interference, you can narrow that a little bit. As for fine-tuning, such as clarification, BFO, normally with a touchscreen, you just click on the digit there and you would go straight in. That's not available on this way of tuning. You have to, again, hold down the encoder. I've just saved the channel memory again. It's a little bit annoying. Hold it down and then you have to go through to the frequency, and there you can see we can get to where we want. And once you're on there, you just tune it like you would a normal radio. That's fine, but like I say, it'd just be easier if you could click each individual digit, but it's something you get used to be honest. It's other things that you can adjust on the screen. It's not as adjustable as the Malahite when it comes down to the waterfall and the spectrum display, but you can adjust the peaks here on the spectrum display. There is a sensitivity control. You can bring things up, bring things down. So yeah, that's not really a problem. I'd probably stick around about 30, minus 30 there. That's pretty much what I would do. And then the LCD itself, you've got a brightness control. If you're using this at night, out on the road, it does go quite nice and bright actually. This would be fine if you were using this in sunshine. Some of these can be a little bit dim. Also, on the spectrum display and the waterfall, you can adjust the width of the signal for the display. I mean, I'm on an FM frequency on upper sideband at the moment, so not a good example, but you'll get the idea. You can narrow this right down. It goes off the side there, but yeah, it's not infinitely adjustable. It is stepped. It's not. This isn't a Yaesu, but it is there, and you can get quite a nice display. And I will say, I'll give it credit, you know, the waterfall itself, once you've got it adjusted with the RF gain, it is actually quite a nice clear waterfall. No criticism to that at all. Once you have mastered the controls, if you stick with it, I've got to say the audio quality from that little speaker is perfectly acceptable.
Moths are actually fantastic pollinators, arguably as good or better than bees. And of course we didn't realise it because, you know, we're diurnal species. Most moths are nocturnal.
Normally they sound quite tinny and quite flat, but this one sounds quite nice. If you turn the AGC off, which is, I've got to find it. things do settle down, but then you tend to lose the display. Go back to the volume now. I don't know if that's enough. I think.
And the groundsman there left.
So now we need to adjust the RF gain a little bit. Oh, I've just saved a preset there. This is just me trying to work out the menu. So let's turn the RF gain up.
Species of vibration called the silver Y. And essentially what the
And
ground...
there you go, yeah. So you see, it's steadied itself down now. This is what you'd expect to see.
So the next night when the football started...
And even if I turn this... There you go. That's just completely blown out now. That's completely overloaded. So you do have to be a little bit careful with the RF or IF gain, but it does work.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember
in all fairness,
that exciting, but I was just
that's now perfectly acceptable.
You know, covered in these moths, and at one point,
but it's just a pity that the automatic gain is just a little bit too strong.
Acid rain, and you know, stripping trees in the sort of 1970s.
So I think what I do now, I'm going to connect this to an outside antenna. And then we'll have a little listen around the shortwave band. We'll see if we can get any ham bands. It'll pick up CB, of course. It'll do all of the CB bands, but not on FM. And this is another problem that I've noticed with this. You'll see on the display here, it's wide FM. That's 192K, massive wide, as you'd expect for. This is a stereo signal, of course. It doesn't do narrow FM on any of the modes, which is a problem for us in the UK, that our CB is narrow FM, only going to work on wide FM. And that'll be also a problem when we go up to the VHF side of it, because this will tune up to 147 megahertz. That's the 2 meter band, but again, it's going to be wide FM only. We need narrow band to listen to the 2 meter band, especially if you want to hear a repeater or something. It's a pity that you can't change that to narrow FM. I think they've missed a spot there, but anyway, let's have a listen to see. Let's see how this works on shortwave and see if we can get some skip coming in.
You're listening to World Today. Let's turn to the latest developments regarding Japan's contentious plan to release wastewater into the sea. A South Korean team of experts has conducted a 2-day inspection tour of Japan's tsunami-ravaged Fukushima nuclear power plant amid concerns over Tokyo's plan to release treated yet still radioactive wastewater into the sea.
Radio Alfa, Radio Anton Chitiri, Fyodor, Roman, Iriton, Braccio Sadorogo Druk, Piadievi, Piaturka, Diviatka, Pavel, Rima, Priom. Okay, Sierra 51 Kilo Zulu, you are on the log, 73, ciao. No, negative. Decision number 7, very weak signal, very weak, number 7 portable again. Sorry, very low. Echo 21, Echo 21, Hotel Zulu portable, roger.
Very common. 10 days ago in the central part of Italy, there was a great hurricane, and for 2 days there was many rain falling down, and but in this part of Italy,
le microphone, c'est un micro-casque de gaming un petit peu modifié. J'ai enlevé un écouteur pour pouvoir écouter le haut-parleur. Et un petit casque de gaming à 20 € sur AliExpress, hein. Donc rien d'exceptionnel.
Time Alpha over 140, should have full bow. Copy 0925, should have full bow, regular. Alpha 140, should have 120. 130925, should have 120, next flight.
So conclusions times, what do I think? Does it get the full Fred in the Shed thumbs up? In fairness, it gets about a 3/4 thumb up. To me, having to hold down that encoder and just go through all of those menus is just a little bit too clunky. I've got used to having a Malahite radio, and I've got used to tuning, for example, just clicking on the peaks on the screen. And because it's got an inductive touchscreen now. It just seems a shame that they haven't actually mastered that with the firmware. Hopefully in the future, certainly watching videos like mine, I think everyone's moaning about it, so hopefully that's something that they can introduce. I'm sure it can't be that complicated. It seems that the processor is strong enough. At the moment I've got 47 frames per second, which is quite strong. If you've never had a Malahite radio and this is your first SDR, well, you won't find it a problem because you won't know any difference, and you'll soon get used to pressing in that encoder and going through the menu system, and you won't have a clue what I'm on about. But yeah, maybe they could just do a little bit better. But the price is good. I mean, let's be honest about it. It's £90. It looks absolutely fantastic. It's made really well. That screen is pin sharp and the waterfall is lovely. Maybe they spent a little bit too much money on the casework and the eye candy, and maybe could have spent a few more dollars on the software development. But there you go. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it's useful to you. I'll put links for this down in the description, available on Banggood into the UK. But as for now, there's Fred in the Shed, the 4 thumbs up for your view time. I do appreciate every view. I'm only a small channel. If you get a second, just give me a thumbs up down below. I would appreciate it if the video has been helpful to you. Any comments you might have on the radio, I'll try and answer what I can, but if you put questions down into the comments, there'll be people coming on watching this in the future. If I can't answer your question, hopefully someone else can. I will be using this in the shack. I'm going to probably set it up with that magnetic loop antenna that I've got to test, and we'll see how it handles with that. So stay tuned for more videos on this radio. But as for now, as always, please look after each other, stay safe, catch you on the next one. Cheers guys.